Welcome to All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm Angie.
So it's that time of year. We pick a spooky species, and we're going back to bats. And it's been a while since we've covered a species of bat, but we've covered a couple of them.
Oh, but this is a fun one. This is so special. Everything from its color to its ears to how it hunts. It's fantastic. The ghost bat.
Yeah, no, it is definitely a fun species that we picked this year for Halloween, for those of you that celebrate it around the world. I know we do here in New Zealand. The kids are getting ready this week to go trick-or-treating. I know it's a big holiday in the U.S., but around the world, people do celebrate this time of year. And I think it's important that we cover a species that's in a little bit of trouble, and typical of this podcast, but to highlight again that bats are under a lot of threats. And the IUCN this year re-upped a lot of their assessments, and so Angie and I over the coming months we'll be talking about some of this, where now 15% of all bat species are threatened with extinction, and 20% of bats were data deficient on. So put that into context, 1,500 species of bats and 210 are slipping towards extinction, which is sad. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and the ghost bat is Australia's only carnivorous bat. So we'll get into that. It's really cool. It eats large insects, reptiles, frogs, birds. And I know we've covered the flying foxes before. That was a while ago. So that was a fun podcast you'll have to go back to. But those huge flying foxes eat fruit. So we're going to talk about this carnivorous bat, and it is classified as vulnerable in some regions and endangered in others due to habitat loss, destructions of the caves where they live, for mining and tourism, things like this. So yes, we want you to fall in love with the ghost bat so you'll help save it and tell all your friends how spooky and cool it is.
Yeah, definitely. And, when I talk about endangered, just to break that down for you real quick, because it'll talk a little bit about it in the podcast, but really want to focus on the ghost bat and everything that makes him so cool. 25 critically endangered, 80 endangered. So those are ones that are really close to extinction, getting there. As Angie said, vulnerable to extinction, 105 species. So the ghost bat, which is also known as a false vampire bat, which is really fun. So we'll talk about that. And then I said 250 are data deficient. So about 50%, getting close to 50% of those bat species we don't know or are heading towards extinction. So, it's important to pay attention to them. They are mammals, which is always fun.
So
and we're going to talk a lot about that. Yeah. Today. But before we get going, I know you have a quick shout out to a special friend.
Well, yes, I want to say thank you to Beth and her fluffy gray kitties, Shadow, Quincy, and Riley. She sent me a beautiful email, and it just really made me smile. And it's just another reason why you and I love doing this podcast, hearing from our listeners and sharing stories, and just being inspired to help talk about and conserve these amazing creatures. So thank you, Beth. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And just really quick, we are on YouTube now. So just Google All Creatures Podcast. Please hit us to subscribe. You can see Angie and I doing this episode over video. And really, we want to make a presence there because we'll be able to reach more people. Throwing some YouTube shorts on there too, just on some quick facts for all the animals we've done. And our interviews will be coming on there too. So you can check us out there, please. But we want to get really going into the species because it's just so fun. They're so fun.
Bats are so cool. But yes, we got to describe the ghost bat. So the ghost bat is a medium to large size bat, and we will get into those sizes here shortly. I know Chris has that all set up. But the coloring of the fur is really cool. It's light gray to almost white in color, very pale, giving it this ghost-like appearance. And the other fun, striking feature, I think, of the ghost bat are these large, very large, rounded ears that are actually twice the length of its head. And then the ears are joined at the base as well, that just give it a very cute face. And we're going to talk all about the ears and echolocation, so stand by for that. Hopefully, if you stick with us, you'll learn what it's like to feel echolocation. So that should be fun coming up here shortly. But the ghost bat also has a prominent, simple nose leaf on its face. And that actually helps with echolocation too. So I learned a lot about echolocation this week, and I'm excited to share it. The ghost bat has large, dark eyes, which help provide excellent nocturnal vision, which makes sense because they're out at night flying around. And the other kind of fun, maybe spooky part about the ghost bat is that it's the the membrane of its wings are pale in color, and it once again provides like this ghost-like translucent appearance, which looks really cool. It does not have a tail. Some species of bats do have tail, like the Brazilian or the Mexican free-tailed bat. And so the ghost bat does not have a tail. They do have strong, sharp teeth and a very robust jaw that allows them to consume flesh and bones and fur of some of the creatures that they eat. And we will talk all about that nutrition because their hunting style is pretty intense. So yeah, you're going to stay tuned for that as well.
Well, yeah, you mentioned the tail because we do have the long-tailed bat and the short-tailed bat in New Zealand, which that was one of our podcasts many years ago.
Hey, and those are
Yeah.
your only mammals endemic to New Zealand,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in big trouble because we had no native land mammals in New Zealand, so our bats were used to foraging on the ground, and so they'd
That's
fly
right.
low. Yeah, and so cats get them, stoats, weasels, all those wonderful introduced predators to New Zealand that have been really devastating to our native wildlife. So yeah. So we did that. That's a good episode. Just talk about some of the challenges, especially these islands that we talk about. Uh, Animals get introduced and they wreak havoc. But sizes on the ghost bat. So as Angie said, medium-sized bat, body length's only 4 to 5 inches. So not huge, but close to a 2-foot wingspan. So 24 inches
It's
or
not
60
small.
centimeters. Oh, no. So that's flapping to your head. You're going to be a little bit
Mhm.
like ducking and diving. They only weigh 5 ounces, 150 grams, which most bats aren't heavy because they fly, right? It takes a lot of energy to fly. So, they don't want to carry a lot like our birds. Birds actually have hollow bones, stuff like that. Where bats don't. Actually, bats are mammals, but they fly pretty well, as you see. And this is, like Angie said, one of Australia's largest microbats. Now, I have seen fruit bats, and I'm going back and forth to Australia for work quite a bit now, and I always send Angie photos.
You
Like,
do. They're so great. It never gets old. It's so
no.
fruit bats are just darling. I mean, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. And I'm so lucky here where I live in Gainesville that we have Luby Bat Conservancy, which is like the world renowned flying fox or fruit bat conservancy where they learn a lot about them there and study them. And yes, they open to the public once or twice a year. And we actually interviewed many years ago the director, Brian Pope, came on and
Hmm.
gave an interview to tell us all about what they do at Luby Bat Conservancy. So that was a fun interview, and
Yeah.
I get to be up close and personal to them a few times a year. But I do always like when you send me those videos.
I do. I'm like, this is so cool, Angie. They're
It
like
never
just
gets
flying
old.
over
It
my
just
head.
never gets
No,
old.
no, no.
Yeah.
No, they're I definitely can't wait to hopefully see a ghost bat, but we'll get there. There's only about 10,000 left, and they have a huge range, which I'm just about there talk about. But I did want to just kind of remind everybody, the largest known bat species is a fruit bat, or the giant golden-crowned flying fox, so found in the Philippines. Their bodies can get almost a foot long, or 30 centimeters, and 5.5 feet or 1.7 meters wingspan.
I love it. I
That's
love
big.
it. That's
That's a big
huge.
bat. That one, hopefully I get some pictures of that one day to you. Now, the smallest is known as the bumblebee bat. I think we mentioned this before. And their body length is about a little bit over an inch or over 3 centimeters, which is tiny.
Tiny.
And yeah, their wingspan's about 6 inches. So that would be really fun to see. And they're in Thailand, Myanmar, so that Southeast Asia part. So that's the range of bats we see around the world. Now, the ghost bat, picking a species, it was like either the ghost face bat, which is in Central America, or the ghost bat. We chose the ghost bat because we love Australia. And like I said, I'm there like 4 or 5 times a year now doing work. But, and I was just up in North Queensland and I didn't see, obviously didn't see any ghost bats off some fruit bats.
Well,
But
and I was
yeah,
thinking we'll have to do the ghost face bat next year because I am
yes,
curious. I always like to get to South America when I can. So,
yes, yeah, especially Central America. Yeah. It's always good to highlight there. So the current range of the ghost bat is Queensland in that northwestern regions along the coast. So north of Brisbane all the way going up to Cairns. Then you do have northern Australia, so the Northwest Territory, and then there's a break with Western Australia. Now they used to be all across that range, and then parts of mid southern Australia, but they now are extinct in that part of the range. So they are fragmented. They do have a lot of challenges. So we'll talk about some of the challenges they're facing, and that's why they're vulnerable to extinction.
well, I
But
was reading
yeah,
too
go
that
ahead.
aren't some of the pockets of populations actually their numbers are they're labeled endangered as well.
Right, right, yeah, because it's a lot of what's going on is a lot of deforestation in Queensland, making way for farmland, and then a lot of mining in Australia. So that is a big part of their economy. So it is challenging. And we'll talk about, leading into why I care about this species.
Right.
I want to tackle, and this is what we're seeing around the earth, I think, is balancing economic development. This is why I struggle with a lot of these issues versus conservation. And I think that's what Australia's facing right now is they're working very hard to conserve their wildlife. They love their wildlife. You go over there, you speak to Aussies. I go to Lone Pine. I go to Taronga Zoo. You go to all these places where they are fighting really hard for the wombats and the quoll and the
Even
Tasmanian
looking,
devil. Yeah,
yeah, well, even the ghost
yeah,
bat,
yeah,
several different names and NGOs popped up that are fighting for the ghost bat. So it was really hopeful.
yeah. Yeah, Australia's fighting hard for their wildlife, but on the other hand, they're a booming economy. They're a booming country. Lots of people want to, immigrate there, and it's tough to balance. But Australia's fighting hard for the wildlife, and like we talked about in the camel episode, we talked about in horses with the wild horses there. How do we manage invasive species that don't belong there? And then manage the wildlife, and
Yeah.
they have fox problems, feral cat, which I'll touch upon here in a second. The ghost bat, Angie, is so it again, it's one of those species that come up as an indicator species, right? Like
Hmm.
they're
Yeah.
so important to the ecology of where they are in Australia.
Well, yeah, and it also should be mentioned too that they do roost in these caves in a lot of these old mine tunnels, these deep cracks in rocks, and so they really aren't out and about. They are definitely hidden, a lot of their roosting sites, and so when I was even looking for information about the reproductive behaviors, there's still some things we don't know about them. They're not super secretive, but where they like to roost in these caves, not a lot of people want to go there, right? But as Chris mentioned, that's why they do tend to sometimes come into conflict when people are trying to develop those mines. So we definitely want to keep our eye on that. And not only do we want to keep our eye on it, but need the ghost bat. We need to care about it. Bats in general are just so critical to helping control populations of insects. And then for the ghost bat, specifically small rodents like mice, right? House mice that get in your house, other small mammals, birds, reptiles, and of course, as I mentioned, insects. So it's a natural regulation that helps maintain the ecosystem balance, and it prevents overpopulation of, well, the unwanted house mouse, right? And we just need this balance, and it's being lost. It has been lost, right? Or a lot of it has been lost. So I think we really need to value bats in general for the prey that they take down, whether it's insects, and that's helping local farmers reduce insect populations over their crops, or for the ghost bat, getting rid of small animals and mammals that are either introduced or that you don't want in your house. So yeah, and the other thing too that's really cool about bats is their guano or their droppings. This helps contribute to nutrient cycling where they live and the ecosystem that they live in. And it also can serve as a valuable fertilizer for plant growth and helping other biodiversity in the area. So it's not just about uh, who eats them and what they eat. It's also about how they help the nutrient cycle in the areas that they live in. So it's we don't, yeah, people love to save waterfalls or maybe beautiful trees, but caves aren't usually always the top of the list for people to want to do cave conservation, right? But if you really think about it, if you protect the caves and the areas that these ghost bats live in, there's other organisms that live in there. And of course, the bats have to leave and go hunt. So there's forests and areas around when they go out at nighttime looking for their prey. So if you support saving those areas, you're really not only going to save the ghost bat, but other species that maybe aren't as, you know, trendy or
Mhm.
as famous or
Mhm.
iconic, but they're still there and they deserve our attention as well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got a pretty good, big interview with a pretty famous author coming soon. That I read her book years ago, and I'll save that. We'll be releasing that in a few weeks. Reading one of her stories in there about insects, and one entomologist estimates there's like 30 million different species of insects that
Wow.
we don't even barely touch the surface. And then there's been pushback on it. So that's where they came down to about 7 million species. When you're only talking about, over 10,000 bird species, but 7 million insect species or
That's a lot
anthropods,
of
I guess I should say.
podcasts.
Yes.
Some
I mean, I
some
wasn't, yeah.
somebody needs to tackle that. I don't know if it'd be Chris and I, but
I've got an insect coming up that I want to try to convince you to do. But it, it when these bats are so important, you talk about the guano, and so they do support a lot of insects in these cave systems. They help break down the guano and nutrient recycling. There are a lot of species that depend up and down the food web with bats. And I go back, I still remember this, and I saw it on a game show here in New Zealand, and they said, what alcohol is made by the agave plant? And the only reason I knew that answer is because in our bat episode, you asked me, one of the bats, you were talking about bats in general and how they are important in pollinating
of
the
course.
agave plant, and that
Hmm.
makes tequila.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a fan of tequila, but still, it's a cool fact that
Oh,
bats
give
are
me a
important.
margarita
There you
anytime.
go.
It's 5 o'clock
You and Pip.
somewhere.
You and Pippa. You guys can have your margaritas. But then you went on, and it was something like it saved, in the U.S. at least, farmers like $4 billion in loss because of these bats and what they're doing to the ecosystem and controlling pests. And here you have in Australia, where you have so many invasive species, rabbits being one of the worst, but mice. They are not native. They were brought with the Europeans, and rats and all of that. And you have a species struggling to survive that can help Australia combat some of this. So
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
very
And
important indicator species. Yeah.
no, and Australia knows this. I mean, ghost bats are protected by national legislation in Australia. So they
Mhm.
know this. It's just we
Yeah.
gotta get the message out there.
Yeah. Now, ghost bats with this, fragmented populations in Western Australia, Northern Territory, and then Northern Queensland is they are supporting all these very diverse ecosystems. I mean, you're talking savannas, woodlands, and tropical forests. So I have yet to get very far inland in Australia. I've been up and down the east coast of Australia, and I've been into Melbourne, but I'm really looking forward to getting over to Perth and getting up to Darwin and seeing more of the beautiful country. So very diverse. You're talking a very diverse territory, and you have a lot of exploitation or development of natural resources ongoing there. So Australia's mining industry has exploded because they have these things now you're seeing in the media, rare earth minerals, a lot of iron ore, a lot of gold, and that's important to Australia's economy and supporting Australia, growing. It's booming. Australia's booming. It's just a great place to be. But that is can be destructive to the environment. I've known this. I used to mine gold with my dad back in my teenager years or young adult years. We were dredging rivers. It was destructive. It really was. Now it's outlawed in California. You can't go in and dredge up the rivers. My dad wasn't happy with that in his later years, his retirement years, but it makes sense. We're trying
Sure.
to protect salmon,
Yeah.
breeding grounds, things like that. So mining can be destructive, and then land clearing of the rainforest, which gets me in the gut because, I want to be able to support Australia's ranchers and farmers, and I do, but in the sense, clearing out the rainforest in Queensland is a it, it has a lot more than just ghost bats. It impacts,
Oh, yes.
yeah, it's all the native wildlife there, and where it is really getting me alarmed, and hopefully in a future episode here quickly, we'll talk about it, is the runoff and its impacts on the reef. As on a recent trip, I told this to Angie, I went snorkeling, and I didn't go far off the Great Barrier Reef, but, I was in northern Queensland. I went off the coast to a small island, snorkeled around, saw plenty of green sea turtles, which is awesome. And again, maybe that's one we'll do is green sea turtles, because
Yes.
news is they're off the endangered species list.
I know.
IUCN, yeah, it's just so incredible that
We have to celebrate
conservation
the
works.
wins. Yes. Yes.
So I showed it on social media too, if anybody saw it, but I did have green sea turtles, but then I went and looked at the reef, and the reef was toast. There was nothing. It was all algae. There was nothing. And on some of the islands here in the South Pacific I've been to, reefs are okay, but they're struggling, the ones I've seen. And I'd really like to go further off the Great Barrier Reef to see where some reefs are still active, because this is off topic. Sorry, I'll wrap this up. It brought me back to my childhood when I was in Hawaii, and I know you've been to Hawaii.
Yes. Several times.
And a cove there near Waikiki is very famous for snorkeling. And when I went as a kid, it was teeming with life. I saw eels, tons of fish, corals were vibrant. And now we know a lot of these reefs are dying, and it's an impact. So to bring it back to the ghost bat, Angie, a lot of this runoff in Queensland is harming the reefs, and it is impacting the ghost bat with the mining development and the loss of these forests. It is having a big impact on it.
Yeah.
Now, what is Australia doing? Okay, so Queensland, Australia's part of, I had a bunch of them. Their they've signed the Convention on Biological Diversity. They have signed the Cunning Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, so protecting 30% of the land by 2030.
That's good.
They have been doing a lot to protect their natural wildlife. But there is criticism from those in Australia that these national parks they're setting up in Queensland, it's either too late because they're using old data, or the bulldozing around these parks is still at a rapid rate that it doesn't matter what they're doing, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I think Aussies just need to, my advice for Australia listeners is do your homework and be active.
Yeah.
I watch it from over here, the ditch in New Zealand. Our governments do listen to us here. And when there is activism and concern, the governments here generally are responsive.
Mhm.
And, the Australians love their country. They love their animals. They love the reef. They do. They adore it. I see it all the time. All my friends that are over there, my colleagues that I work with, it's just some of this stuff happens and the people don't know about it. So just keep your eye to the ground. I don't need to go through all of that, and just say this isn't just in Australia. It's happening here in New
No.
Zealand.
Yeah. And it's here
Our
in
current
the US.
government,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not happy with my current government in New Zealand. They are opening deep sea trawling. They are, opening up some of our reserves. They want to build gold mines in some of our protected parks. This, there's certain members in the government that want to exploit and make as much money as they can.
Of course.
And that's seen throughout the world. And we know that. And that's the
Yeah.
challenge is
It
not to let
is.
them, not to let them, because it
Not
breaks
to
my
let
heart.
them. Oh,
I,
yeah.
I was so excited to take my boys snorkeling. I'm not kidding you. This was a gut punch. I was so excited when they came with me. We were in North Queensland. I said, "Oh my goodness, wait till we go see the Great Barrier Reef."
Yeah.
I built it up, all the hype, and we go out there. There's like 5 fish, and you and I have talked about it since we started this podcast 8 years ago. What are we leaving behind?
Right.
And it upset me so much. I was like, "Oh, we saw green sea turtles. Oh, cool, cool, cool." Like I just built that up,
Yeah.
but now I'm really sad for my children. They don't
And
they
that's
don't
in
get to see
one
what I saw.
generation, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the speed is just the speed at which this stuff is happening is just mind blowing.
yeah. But
But
yeah,
every little bit helps. Voting with your dollars, voting green for green parties and green candidates. Reducing your carbon impact, saving the bats. Right, get a bat house. Turn
hmm,
your lights off at nighttime.
yeah,
So there's you can do so much locally in your own community, and especially by voting with your dollar, and of course for the people, the candidates that care about life and wild spaces, you can definitely make an impact. And we're seeing that, like you said, with the green
yeah,
turtle. I mean,
yeah,
there's certain
yeah.
species, and Chris and I do like to bring a lot of hope to the podcast. There is hope, but it is also not time to turn down the dial. If anything, it needs to be turned up and
Yes, it
a
does.
lot louder, especially now with renewables. And I mean, there's so many cool innovations that are happening that just potentially, need to be supported. And so, yeah, I do. I am hopeful for the younger generation, but I am, you and I are going to keep fighting.
Yes, it
That's how I
it
think of it.
did it did light a fire in my
Yeah.
belly, like
Good.
nothing I've felt before again.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments in life where you're like, okay, okay, this is our reality now in 2025.
Right.
I'm gonna up my game, and I'm gonna do my best.
What side of history do
And
we want to be on? Right. Like,
yes,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and hopefully I can take my boys to somewhere reef is active and
Sure.
alive and
Mm-hmm.
flourishing, which I know is dwindling. It is dwindling. Like the bleaching events this past couple years in the Great Barrier Reef's been horrific, but I know there's places on Earth that the reef is still doing okay. My
Not
goal is to
Florida,
get them there. Yeah, but my goal is to show them
but
and say, this is what Dad's fighting for. This is what Angie's fighting for.
yeah.
And again, it's good to see. But like I said, the green sea turtle, I saw, I think, at least 5 just in that one little
Cool.
part of the
Wow.
reef. So that
There you
was really
go.
good.
That
Yeah.
is good.
All right, so let's jump into evolution. Like I said, ghost bats are mammals. Now, this is getting updated a lot because of genetics. We've talked about that. So
Sure.
now
Hmm.
there's almost 6,600 species of mammals. So we started this, we used to say 5,500. So 1,000 new giraffes. Giraffe is one of the most recent where they finally
Yeah.
recognized they're all separate species, not subspecies. And I found this really interesting. Out of the orders, Okay, I'll ask you, Angie. Okay, let's see.
Quiz
1, 2, 3.
time.
Let's do top 6 orders. Where do you think Chiroptera, I don't know why I always say that wrong. Chiroptera bats, where do you think it sits in the top 5? I know it's late there. Florida. I know it's late.
Let's see. Number 5.
Okay. Number 2.
Okay.
Who do you think's number 1?
Um
You got to remember this. Come on. The number 1 class or order of mammals. Order of mammals.
Okay. Oh, I'm back to Scott. I didn't understand what you were asking. I'm sorry. Back up the bus a few steps.
Okay.
Okay. So bats are. You said bats are 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
Second
okay.
largest.
I guess. Yeah. They're definitely not 5 now that I rethink that. The largest.
You'll kick yourself if you don't remember this.
Rodents.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there you go. Good. I know it's late.
It is. It's very late here.
You've been teaching all day.
The bats are out. The bats are for sure out at my house. Yes.
Yeah. And the number.
Okay.
So yeah.
So rodents,
14.
bats, and then what?
What do you think? I have them all the way down to 1. These scientific names. They're insectivores. I just tell you star nose, you'll get it right away.
The moles.
Yeah, moles, shrews, hedgehogs. 540
they're not
species.
Rodents. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, wow. Number 4. I'm gonna surprise you, actually.
Oh, primates.
Yes, primates. 500 species. So all those new world, old world monkeys. Yeah, pretty successful.
Cool. We need
so, your second favorite order of animals?
Oh, the even-toed ungulates.
Yeah, Artiodactyla, 335. Carnivores, 300.
Okay.
Yeah, going down, cetaceans. Yeah, it's an order, so yeah, 90. Going down lagomorphs, only 110. So our rabbits, hares, and stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Any other cool ones in here? There's some really cool ones. I never really broke it down by order. The one I want to do is aardvark. We haven't done aardvark, have we? Maybe? I don't think so.
I feel like we have, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. We probably have. It's a 300 plus species.
I mean,
so,
how have we not? That'd be okay. Well, we will if we have not.
The monotreme's my favorite. So only 5
more. That's like the platypus, right?
Yeah, and we did a kid like last year. Yeah, we did a kid after I got back from
the egg-laying mammals.
Yeah, yeah. They gave me a behind-the-scenes tour. Just amazing zoological society. Remember, I saw half the reef frozen. I remember we walk in because the director of education was leading me around, and we went to the frozen zoo, and it was just a big freezer, and Pip was really disappointed. She's like, I was expecting this huge frozen zoo. Like, I don't know what she was thinking. I'm like, no, babe, that's, little samples
but those
of every
freezers
species.
Are really expensive, and they have alarms on them in case the power ever goes out. So it is very high tech, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, but half the barrier reef was in that fridge because they know they're going extinct.
Exactly,
so,
yeah.
Okay, back to bats. 18 major families of bats, and over 1,200, close to 1,300 species now. The family, Megadermatidae, false vampire bats, 5 species that stretch from Africa, Asia to Australia. So you have the lesser false vampire bat, greater false vampire bat, the yellow-winged bat, the heart-nosed bat, and the ghost bat. So,
and we have covered the vampire bat on this a couple Halloweens ago.
Yeah, like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So dig that one out of the archives if you're interested.
Yeah.
I bet that's a fun one.
Yeah, that's a fun one. It is. So in genre, Macroderma, this is the only species. So Macroderma gigas. Gigas.
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it will always be gigas to me. I don't know why. I just love it that way.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Scientific names. That's been around 50 million years. Like they're dating now the Earth's 5th mass extinction about 65 million years, 66 million years now.
Okay.
So that was about 14 million years till you saw the first bats emerge. We do have a fossil that was discovered in Wyoming in the USA. It was more like a flying fox
Okay.
and kind of glided, didn't fly. They think it just like would be up in trees and glide down, and didn't have echolocation yet. That came a couple million years later.
Wow, I wonder how they can tell that on
Ear
the
bones,
fossil.
ear
Oh,
bones. Yeah. So
interesting.
I looked it up because I was curious. I was like, okay, if they couldn't echolocate, when did they echolocate, and how do you know? So that's what it is being a scientist. You dig down these little holes.
You
But
always ask
yes,
why. You always ask why. Keep asking
but
why.
think about natural history. This is why I cover it, because really when you think about it, at 52 million years, you have in the fossil record, that's the first one we could find. That means there's probably some before that, but as you come to find out, bats don't fossil well, their bones don't. So there are some gaps in the fossil record. But you think about it, 52 million years ago, you have this kind of bat species gliding down. Then it develops the membranes, they think, to catch prey like sugar gliders
Oh.
do.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll wrap prey. So
Yeah.
that gave them, yeah. And then they could fly even faster or higher. And then slowly over 2 million years, which our brains can't
Can't even
comprehend,
comprehend. Mm-mm.
they start clicking and develop this echolocation, this superpower. It's fascinating. Now, with ghost bats, the earliest relative we have is as late as 23 million years ago. So small size, smaller than the modern version of Macroderma we find in the fossil record. Then there's some intermittent species that we have fossils on. And then, Angie, they come out around 5 to 11 million years ago. We do have fossils of dating around 8 million years ago. Around that range, they find the ghost bat.
That's incredible. Yeah. So
S-
they've been around for a while.
yes, this isn't a
It's
new
like an
species.
ancient, right? It's like an ancient
Yes.
ghost bat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been hiding out in these caves and rock ledges, and
Perfecting
it's
their
just,
pale color.
yeah, yeah. And they've been fine until humans. And now they're hurting. Like I said, 10,000, we think about 10,000 left across Australia, which is huge.
Huge, huge range.
Big continent.
Yeah.
Big continent. So, all right. Fun facts. So we get to echolocation. Again, bats are mammals, so they tend to live a little bit longer, up to 20 years in the wild.
Yeah.
Ghost bats. And then under human care, they think up to 25. So, getting everything they need. Ghost bats are a little bit quicker than, like, say, a fruit bat, because fruit bats, when you watch them fly, so amazing. They glide a lot, they get in those thermals, and they just kind of, they're not speedsters, where our microbats or our insectivore bats are more flighty because they've got to catch those insects,
Sure.
right? So ghost bats are kind of in that range. They fly upwards of 25 miles per hour
It's
during
not slow.
foraging or commuting. No.
Yeah.
40 kilometers per hour. Maximum speed they think is around 37 to 38 miles per hour. So that's upwards of 60 kilometers an hour. And that's like the chase, when they decide, okay, I could burn up some energy and I'm going to get this animal. So generally they're slow, but then they do get a little bit faster when they're chasing prey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I just have to throw in really quick, I'm so fascinated by skeletons, and since it is Halloween, I highly, highly recommend that you just take 30 seconds out of your life and Google a bat skeleton, because it's just really cool. It doesn't look how you think it'll look. And of course, that has to do with their adaptations of basically their forearms and their fingers. So they're humerus. That's the arm that connects our shoulder to then our elbow. That probably looks similar to ours. And then the ulna and the radius, similar. Wrist, there it is, the carpals. But man, their phalanges, like I
Their
really want
fingers.
to Oh my God, the
Yeah.
fingers, the phalanges, or the digits, depending on what textbook you look at, are just incredible and so long. And I have to be a bat next Halloween because I'm going to build the extensions from my fingers and try to make it all like accurate. Because I love comparative anatomy between different
So
mammals.
freaky looking.
I just love it. And yeah, it's basically just if my my knuckles and my fingers it just got really, really, really long. And of course the membrane of the wing attaches to the shoulder humerus and then all the way out through the elongated fingers. It's just rad. It's evolution at its finest. And I think because when you're looking at the wings, you just think of them as wings or whatever. And they help them fly, but it's really those fingers that are just that's probably what really sealed the deal for them to get good flight as they were evolving.
I Googled it. It's just, oh
It's fun,
yeah,
right?
it's so spooky. Spooky Halloween. It's perfect. It's perfect. And
You're
obviously on YouTube,
welcome. You're welcome.
we'll throw up some photos so you can see it as we describe that. But yeah, those long, yeah, they're amazing though. They are so cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
Okay, let me let's do a little Q&A for the listeners. They can think in their heads. Why are ghost bats white? So whenever we do species, I always like to look and what is unique about them, because we've done a few bat episodes before, going into different aspects of anatomy and whatnot. But I was like, okay, why is this one white or light gray compared to, say, fruit bats who are brown? So what do you think? Why would they evolve that way to have this white coats? Colors.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. I mean, they live in caves, so I don't know if it maybe helps them see each other better in caves, maybe. But I don't really know how helpful it would be when they're out at nighttime hunting.
Okay. Let's go. Where do they live? Okay, so they live in North Australia. So what do you know about North Australia?
Oh, is it like the desert around there?
Well, that desert's just hot.
It's just
It
hot.
is.
Okay, yeah.
It is. It's hot.
It's hot.
I'll be honest. Yeah, hot, humid Florida. Okay. Which is weird because your bats there aren't white. But
No, they are not. Mm-mm.
Okay. So thermal regulation, they think, so reflects heat better. So white reflects the sun, where darker fur absorbs sun.
Yeah.
We know that.
Mhm.
And from the fossil evidence, they know they have inhabited rainforest caves. So they do think they did have lighter colored fur because of the rocks there, which is limestone. So I'll just get to the chase.
Okay.
Just get to the end, Chris. Limestone caves and rock crevices.
No, I'm trying to figure it out. Ooh,
yeah,
what is?
Yeah. I didn't know. I had to do research and find out why would these ones be white when most other bats are darker colored. And it actually, you said, make them find easier in the cave. It actually makes them more translucent, or what was it? Not translucent. It was, it makes it harder for, predators to see them. So not only against the limestone, but in darker caves.
Okay.
So yeah, so it makes it harder to see them in the dark, in the backs of caves, than the brown bats. Which I thought, okay, yeah. So in dim cave light, reducing visibility to predators like snakes or owls that might enter the roost.
Because that's what I was going to say. Who goes into the cave besides humans?
Yeah, snakes.
What crisis? There you go. What spooky creatures dare even go into a cave? There it is. Snakes.
Well, it is Australia.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
As we all know.
Yeah.
Which is funny to our American listeners. I know everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, Australia! Everything there will kill you." And the Aussies are laughing, going, "Are you kidding me? You've got rattlesnakes, you've got brown bears, you've got XYZ or XYZ. Like they list off all these species that could kill you in the U.S. And you're like, okay, moose, the buffalo, huge animals." in the United States. Now you have Burmese python in Florida. So it's not a good thing. But anyways, I joke. But yeah, there's lots of things that are pretty radical in Australia. Other interesting things I found about these bats. So they maintain a body temperature of 36 to 38 degrees C, so a little bit less than us, right? And they've evolved to be in a humid environment. So they're not in the
Okay.
deserts of Australia. They're more in the parks and stuff where there's humidity to prevent dehydration. So it's these microclimates that they live in really support their well-being and
Yeah.
physiology. So when a mine comes in or they lose those trees of that rainforest, like we talked about with the Amazon, when you lose those spots, that's really detrimental to them.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
Well, I found it
yeah,
fascinating too that they have a really high resting heart rate of about 235 beats per minute,
wow.
and their breaths per minute are about 55. So this just reflects their high metabolic rate. But I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I think when you say that heart rate, I always think of hummingbird for some reason.
Sure, sure. Yeah,
They're like, I thought it was like 300 beats per minute or something crazy like that.
it is very high. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have these white bats, light gray bats, hunters. How do they do it? So let's go through this echolocation. How are bats using sound, which is so just echolocation, especially in the ocean, like the sperm whale and beluga whale and
Yeah.
oh,
It's
it's
like the
such a
super sense for me of like 2025. I teach a lot of mammal like physiology, especially horses who do not echolocate. I'm always talking about it. Somehow I always tie it in to you guys know about the bats but just for our listeners who aren't super familiar with echolocation, it's used by animals like bats and dolphins. And it basically involves sending out a high frequency or ultrasound wave that then bounces off of objects and then comes back as an echo. And it's really cute. Maddox will go around and do a smaller room, and he'll say, "Echolocate, echolocate." He learned it, I think, in Wild Kratts or some cartoon, and so he's always trying to echolocate to hear his echo bounce off. But when bats do it or dolphins, they are listening very carefully to these echoes to figure out where the objects are that the sound waves are bouncing off of, how big they are, and even what shape they are. And of course, for our bats, this helps them navigate and find food in total darkness. Now, to be fair, the ghost bat does have really good vision as well. So they have these large dark eyes, and they're very developed for nocturnal vision. So that's complementing the echolocation abilities. So they are using sight and sound to be really good hunters. But with echolocation, it's just so cool how they do it. Because I don't know if we covered in the last podcast, but I really wanted to get a grasp of like, well, how do they do this, right? And so the ghost bat will basically produce a sound with their larynx, and that's like your vocal cords in the throat. Now, the sound, which is we can hear some of the vocalizations they make, but not necessarily the echolocating vocalizations. That's going to be between 2,000 and 7,000 hertz, mostly ultrasonic, and then not within our human range. But when I get to vocalizations, they do make some cute chirps and other noises that we can hear. But the sound, interestingly enough, will actually come out the ghost bat's nostrils. And as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the ghost bat has a noticeable like nose leaf shaped, which basically there's a flap of skin around the nostrils. And this actually helps direct and focus their echolocations, almost like a sonar, to help them send it in certain directions. So once the bat sends this call out through its nose, it waits for the sound to come back, and then it hears it through its large ears. And when I say large, I mean darling large
Mhm.
white-ish
Very
ears
much.
that are round and way bigger than its face. And then once again, the ears are rounded and then joined at the bottom to kind of make this cute heart shape. So that sound is then directed into these big old ears, and the bat's brain processes what it hears. But it, of course, I had to do my, well, what if I were a bat? How do you hear ultrasound? And that's,
Mhm.
it's hard to put yourself in a bat's shoes, but it would feel different. Like, it's not how we hear sound. Like, you hear our voice, Chris and I, our voice right now
Mhm.
talking.
Mhm.
It's different than that. It's basically the echoes let the bat see using sound in total darkness. So the best way to think about it, if you were human, when those ultrasounds came back, you're not necessarily hearing the sound, but instead your brain is instantly analyzing these tiny differences in timing, pitch, and the loudness of the echoes that are bouncing back. And this would allow you, or the bat, to create this mental picture or map of where things are, how far away they are, how big they are, what shape they are, and even what kind of object it is. So the echoes help the bat see using sound. And for us humans, that would be like having this superpower where every time I make a sound, boom, I get a 3D snapshot of my surroundings in my mind, helping me find food or my friends or whatever I'm looking for. So just
That's I
I mean, right?
the natural world, Angie, the natural world. As you're talking, you did an awesome job explaining that, and I'm listening to
I
your
tried because
words. No,
it's
no,
so fun. It's so
it
fun.
is such. It's like when we try to discuss mantis shrimp, because we just did praying mantis, how mantis shrimp see the world through 17 different spectrums of color. Hear how bats see the world with echolocation. But I'm sitting here with the human brain going, okay, I'm listening to your words, speaking English, the English language we've learned growing up. The words I'm saying are making visual impressions in my brain. Like, it's just biology, biology. These are all cells and chemicals, and
So
the
cool.
bats are doing it with physics, physics of sound, which I don't even want to go there. Superpower, incredible,
Yeah, so
incredible.
fun.
Yeah, they
Ghost
just,
bats. I mean, that's why you care, right? If you don't care about whatever caves or bats in general, like, just how cool is that? And we're still learning about it.
yeah. Yeah, 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 and then navigate around trees, like the
As they're
Daintree
flying,
rainforest. Yeah,
I mean, I like to
it,
joke, like, during the day, I basically, if my maps go off, like, I'll just drive my car into a ditch. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I that's during the day. Forget about nighttime. That's a whole different story. I usually always let John drive. So,
But it's
I mean,
just, I mean, and then with bats, like the fruit bat, because I watched a lot of them, and I sent you a couple videos. They're more visual sight because they're not using echolocation, and they see
right?
a bright fruit, and it's so funny to watch them crash into a tree to get
Yeah.
to the fruit, but they just like they crash into the palm tree or wherever,
Yeah.
and then they climb till they find the fruit, and then just start chomping on it. Where these bats are like little, fighter airplanes navigating all around obstacles. It's just, you just have to appreciate the natural world. And,
Yeah.
and it's just, yeah, week in, week out, we cover some cool stuff. This one, yeah, is amazing. Bats are awesome. I do want to get to more behaviors, but really quick, the threats that I mentioned, feral cats and foxes, significant threats to them. We have a trouble here in New Zealand with feral cats. Just a quick tip, and I'll mention it at the end again, is always spay and neuter your cat and keep them indoors, especially at night.
Definitely.
Um, but the ghost bat, to become a carnivore, because I know Angie's going to input on this too, eh, their dental structure is different. So they do have sharp teeth like the vampire bat. They're not biting cows and licking up blood, but they're crushing bone. So they're little things that they prey on, and to pierce the prey. So their snout over the years, the last 10 million years, has gotten shorter, so they can grasp more as their prey change. So, like Angie said, small birds, reptiles, small mammals. So they do have really sharp teeth, and then their digestive system's really different for high protein diets. So muscle and bone, what they eat of these small prey animals. So they do have a shorter gut to rapidly get those nutrients in them. And again, they consume up to 50% of their body weight. So that's up to 150 grams per day to support this.
Yeah, and they do eat.
Did I miss anything? Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, the ghost bat will eat some large insects and sometimes other bat species. But what's really interesting is when they're under human care, they have found that it's almost like, without having the scientific studies, it's almost like they need the bones, because when they fed them just meatballs, they didn't do as well, and their digestive system did not appreciate. They had a lot of loose guano, which no animal caretaker wants to clean up that. Trust, take it from take it from me. So they basically think that, yeah, either the whole food or having the flesh, the bones, others, whatever it is, or the exoskeletons of the insects, something in there is really important for them and they need that when they're under human care. But I think some cool, like, nutrition related behaviors with the ghost bat is keep in mind that most of their prey is captured on the ground. So what the ghost bat will do is they'll hang out higher up, maybe in a tree or a roost or something, and they'll drop down on the mammals from above. And then they'll envelop them with their flight membrane, so with their wings, and they will kill them with bites around the head and neck. As Chris mentioned, they have the sharp teeth. That's what they're for, in the jaw. And a lot of times, which I think is really fascinating, the ghost bat will carry the prey back with it to a roosting site, but not always their daytime sleeping roosting site. They will often have feeding roosting sites where where they'll consume the food. And then researchers have pointed out that it's kind of cool because a midden will form with all the discarded remains. And so they don't always eat all of it. Sometimes they do discard some of it. And there'll be like bones and just other things, other debris in this midden, which is pretty cool if you're an animal nerd like me that loves everything related to feeding and poop
Yes.
and all of that. Well, it really tells you a lot.
It does. It does.
And in fact, I was reading somewhere that, like, by studying ghost bat middens, learn more about what was it a species of? It was some species of bird that they didn't know was in that
Mm.
area or something like
Oh,
that.
wow. Okay. Okay.
I mean, poop
Mm.
and feed middens and things like this really tell you a lot. But I just think it's fascinating that they have this very kind of spooky hunting technique where they will sit and wait and suspend from a tree and just wait until they can attack. And then
Wow.
their prey, yeah, they're pretty quiet and their prey won't even know what's coming, and bam. So, yeah.
I have no
Yeah.
problem with them hunting some of these smaller birds that are invasive to Australia, and especially these mice and
Yeah.
other
And the
things
mice,
that,
exactly.
that
So,
yeah. The other marsupials, I'm like, okay, you can avoid them, please. But it's like
right.
the little bandicoots and stuff, juveniles
Our
they'll
other
eat. So,
bats, yikes. Yeah.
yeah, I know. It's like, come on, leave your homies alone. Go
Hmm.
after some of these, transplants that from a transplant. So, anyway, what other fun behaviors have they noticed
Yeah.
with the ghost
So
bats?
bats, of course, are nocturnal, right? So they will leave their roost several hours after sunset. Sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs or small groups. And the ghost bat does not hibernate. So some species of bats do, some don't, depending on where they live. But the ghost bat is doing its thing year round in Northern Australia. And when it comes to social behavior with the ghost bat, the colonies range in size anywhere from 100 to 200 individuals on average, but I guess some up to 400 have been recorded or seen emerging from a single cave. But the colony size of the bats can fluctuate seasonally depending on the time of year, the humidity, Is it breeding season? All of that. So it's pretty variable. And then as Chris mentioned too, as these bats are getting uh, more and more fragmented with their population, there probably are smaller colonies emerging and things like that. But because they love to roost in caves and old mines and rocky crevices, a lot of times it's hard to get in there and get a head count, if you will. So you're more looking for like the emerging process to try to count how many are in the colony, which that seems like it'd be difficult. Um, and when it comes to the social structure of the bat colonies, which, gosh, Chris, I would love to get there. I love studying behavior. Probably not in a cave, but still, because they're really social creatures, right? So they have a lot of positive social behaviors with each other. They can huddle. They'll hang upside down next to each other. They do grooming, a lot of vocal interactions. And then they also will have some other negative interactions as well. They might be a little bit of aggression in there. They might chase each other, especially if it's breeding season. So they're busy in there, and I think they'd be really fun to watch, to spend time just really just observing their subtle interactions. I mean, you and I are people that can just watch a horse or hoofstock eat grass for like 16 hours a day and just love it. So I don't know. I think the bats would be really fun to watch in a colony for all the little subtle social squabbles or cooperative
Yeah,
behaviors and
yeah.
see who's friends with who, all of that. So because researchers are learning more about bat colonies in general, and there's a lot of complexity in their social behaviors, what they're finding out between vocal communications and other social affiliative and social aggressive behaviors. So yeah, I think they'd be really fascinating to watch. And there was a study that was done with ghost bats that demonstrated that they would respond to a vocal playback of one of their social calls, like they would move closer to it. And so that's demonstrating that they want to be by each other, and that they understand obviously different friendly calls or aggression vocalizations. So yeah, pretty really fascinating. And the species of ghost bat is generally quiet, but like I said, there are these subtle vocalizations that are audible to humans, right? That are not necessarily the ultrasound echolocating um, sounds. So they can give a twitter call when they're excited, like if they're leaving the roost. They do a chirp. It kind of sounds like crickets. You might hear a squabble or a rasp vocalization. Females, I love this. Females can grumble when they're not pleased. Who does that sound
I,
like?
no, I wouldn't
Me,
know.
me,
No.
me when I'm a little hangry per se. When
Yeah,
Chris is like, Angie, we'll start the podcast in 2 hours. Just hang on,
yeah.
hang tight. Might have been a little grumbling there, but
I'm sorry.
no,
I'm
it's all good. It's all
sorry.
good.
I'm the male back going, I'm sorry, or
No,
fly off.
I would podcast in the middle of the night to
I
share with
know.
everybody how awesome ghost bats are. So, and then yeah, like I said, just their intelligence is probably understudied, but they demonstrate problem-solving abilities by using echolocation to navigate, right? These, as Chris mentioned, these complex environments where they're flying around dense caves and forests. And ghost bats do have a large brain relative to their body size that in theory supports flexible learning and behavioral adaptation. So I think it's safe to say that ghost bats are pretty intelligent with their advanced vocal communication and their echolocation. So, I mean, I would love to see more studies specifically of ghost bats, of like target training and that kind of thing, which I know the flying foxes do. But once again, it's hard because they're a nocturnal animal to really study these types of things.
Well, the one most fascinating thing I find with bats, and we'll talk about reproduction, is how they give birth hanging upside down. I know you've mentioned it before at some point, but then the females, those babies don't sit home like birds in a bird box or in a
Mhm.
nest. They are with mama. So out of the animal kingdom, I know we've had some incredible mothers, like stories. Yeah, you do have the incredible odd, a cassowary dad, but
Yes.
mostly it's the mom doing the heavy lifting. And for bats, that is no joke.
No, it's
Could you
really
imagine
it's
flying
really
with
heavy
Maddox?
lifting. Yes, it's not it's
Exactly. I didn't use that metaphor. Would you
it
imagine carrying Maddox flying, trying to catch
no.
your food?
No, I
No,
cannot.
no,
Not at all.
no.
When he was little, I loved baby wearing him and all my kids having them on
Yeah,
me as much as
yeah.
possible, but that was not all the time, and that was not when I was flying.
Oh, or
And
hunting. Yeah,
right.
just no,
And then as
no.
they grow too, it's like, and they get heavier. No, 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 no. So I think the ghost bat mom is probably up there as pretty
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
And and it was also a little bit disheartening to me too, researching the ghost bat, because compared to other bats, there's actually less known about just some of their reproductive and mating and maternal behaviors. So I was like, ooh, that sounds like um, a fun graduate studies project. Give me that cave and those night vision
Yeah.
goggles.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what we do, but research we do know a fair amount. And so with the ghost bat in general, mating will take place in July and August, and ghost bat courtship is thought to include vocal communications, of course, territorial displays, social hierarchies. And once again, that's going to be all mediated through their vocal signals and then some of their dis- behavioral displays. The other thing, too, is a male ghost bat typically breeds several females, and they're polygamous. So a male will actually often form a harem during a breeding season where it's just him and all of his lady friends. And yes, quiz question.
Okay, here we
When
go.
it is breeding season and male and female do get together, do you think they breed upside down or right side up?
It's got to be upside down. I don't. Yeah, I don't see them. Yeah, yeah. Okay, upside down. Yeah,
It's
because
upside down.
it's not that I remember you telling me, but I'm thinking, like I said, the problem with the New Zealand our bats is they do go on the ground and forage around, where most bats don't, because they'll get crushed.
Sure.
Something will catch them.
Yeah.
So, and they don't do it midair. I imagine that would be very difficult
No,
to
no,
do midair for any.
yeah, they're very comfortable in their roost hanging
Yeah.
upside down. And so, yeah. And when a female ghost bat does become pregnant, her gestation period is about 3 months and she'll give birth to a single young. So thank goodness it's only one that she has to carry around.
There's no way.
But
There's no way they can do
I know.
twins. No way. No way.
But that will happen between September and November. And once again, during this time, males and females are pretty segregated into their different colonies. So during the birthing season, before the young are weaned, it's basically just females that are all hanging out, probably complaining about these these pups that are suckling them dry. But yeah, the juvenile will stay with mom and hunt with mom, be on mom, for about 3 months is when weaning is. So the juvenile ghost bat will start flying about 7 weeks, but yeah, we'll stick around and on mom until then, and even thereafter till about 3 months. So it's a pretty big maternal commitment if you think about how much. I mean, because you have to think
Yeah.
about, I
Yeah.
in general, I don't have the nutrition requirements fats or ghost bats, but we do know, like in horses and other cattle, like, the most energy dense time in a mammal's life or hoofstock life is when they are lactating.
Yes.
The animal actually needs more calories during lactation than the last trimester of pregnancy, when that's when the growth spurt is. So I doubt it's much different for these ghost bats, which means while she is flying around with her pup attached to her, basically hanging on for dear life, she's having to hunt and get more nutrients, not only to lactate and have that energy, but to fly around and carry this this little pup. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating. But what's super fun with ghost bats is this fun little reproduction fact that ghost bats have prepared to carry their young, basically.
Mm.
So a pregnant ghost bat has 2 sets of teats. There's one pair beneath her armpits, and that's what she uses for nursing. And then she actually has a second pair around her pubic area that provide grip for the newborn pup to cling to while he's being carried in flight. So he has better support with these second teats, and that might make it a little bit easier on mom to like distribute the weight. So I thought that was a pretty interesting
It's still intense.
use
It's
of an extra pair of
intense.
teats, right?
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a new fact I've
Yeah,
learned. I didn't
yeah.
know that.
But yeah, so Chris, to like clean it all up, basically with ghost bats, they breed hanging upside down. The mom gives birth hanging upside down, and then the young will nurse or she'll lactate upside down.
It's it's nuts. And
Bless
then
bless her. Well, that's the mom of the year, let me tell you. And somehow she
she's
doesn't
up
pass
there. Yeah,
out, right? So they're
she's
doing
up there.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's doing all this, and which is just amazing, and hanging upside down and not passing out, which that's incredible.
it's I'm hard pressed to find another mom this year that we've covered that. There's a couple in there, but definitely we'll have to do like a podcast, like the best moms, best dads, and then
Yeah.
see who wins or something. I don't know. It's
It's
always
not
going to be
it's
moms
not
all
the
day long.
quokka.
No, that's the worst moms. But yeah, so the circulation we forgot to mention, they do have tendons that lock their feet in there so they don't get tired. Their muscles don't get tired. And then if we covered this in the other bad episodes, but they have one-way valves, so blood won't pool in their head, so they won't pass out like we would. If we hang upside down for any length of time, we can pass out because blood will pool in our brain and we lose consciousness and hopefully don't hurt ourselves. With all that being said, we do know they're all vulnerable to extinction. A lot of bat species are in trouble. Just a couple tips. You can turn your gardens into bat havens. Night scented flowers. We have some here, even though we don't have any bats around us. I would love it if we did, but we don't in New Zealand. You can build a pond where they can drink. Let your garden go a little wild. I'm going to be pushing that a little bit more. We talked about it in the
Yes.
insects, but also turn those lights off at night because bats that can blind them. And keep your cats indoors at night if you can. I love them. We've got a neighborhood cat that wanders around here, and I've half adopted him, and I would love to put him inside, but he's not ours. He should be inside at night because that's when cats are active and hunting. And in Australia specifically, spay or neuter all your cats, period. End of story. Just get it done.
Yes,
All
100%.
right.
And you can add a bat box too to your
Yes. Yep.
backyard. That's always
Yep.
a great way to attract them.
Yeah. So you said a bunch of organizations, and I know there are a bunch out there, but specifically on ghost
Yes.
bats.
Well, the first one that caught my eye was Australian Wildlife Conservancy. That can be found at www.australianwildlife.org. And they protect ghost bats in several different regions through research and education, and of course science, and legislation. And so they're working hard on several species in Australia, but the ghost bat is one of them. But just even more so focusing on the ghost bat, there's a whole list of groups that are working their tails off to help save the species. And it just really made me happy to see groups like the Australasian Bat Society, the Fitzroy Basin Association, Capricorn Conservation Council, Gladstone Conservation Council, the Sydney Bats Group, the Conservation Council of Western Australia, and then there's always Bat Conservation International. That's a big global one. Great group. We've highlighted them on the podcast before, but they actually support local research and conservation efforts in ghost bats in Australia. So yes, we'll put the Australian Wildlife Conservancy up on our show notes, but check out or follow any of those groups, especially if you are in the Australia area. And yeah, I was really happy to see that. So, and then also I thought it was and then lastly, the Perth Zoo received its first ghost bat colony in 1977. So they are on several exhibits at the Nocturnal House there. And yeah, you should check them out so you can get a closer up view of what a ghost bat looks like and share it with your friends and get people talking about how cute they are and how important they are for the ecosystem and how we should try to save them.
Yeah, no, like I said, Australia loves their animals. I'm off to Perth as soon as I can to go to the Perth Zoo because I want to see these so bad. But I really, which is great that they're doing it for conservation because all the zoos, most of the zoos, I guess, the accredited zoos in Australia are working so hard. I know Taronga Zoo, koala, and everything during the wildfires. But yeah, Australia loves their wildlife and they are overcoming these challenges. And bats have challenges all around the world. So
Definitely.
good species, Angie. You're the one that recommended this one for Halloween. Yeah, great job today.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for listening.